Hello friends, welcome to this lecture of COA. In this lecture, I will discuss about the basics of microprocessor and microcontroller. So, what is microprocessor? Let us understand that. A microprocessor, it is basically written as mu, that is micro, and then processor. So microprocessor is a logical and decision making device which doesn't do anything on its own, but microprocessor basically fetches instruction from memory and performs operations as per fetched instruction. So microprocessor is basically a logical device which is used to perform some specific task like ALU. So microprocessor fetch some instructions from ROM that contains a set of instructions related to arithmetic and logical type. So we have to discuss in microprocessor two things. One is architecture and second thing is programming. So we will look out what is basically the architecture of a microprocessor. That is basically asked on many occasions in exam. And second thing, we have to discuss how basically programming of microprocessor is done. We will talk a large set of instructions that are basically asked in exam. So moving to the next, we have microcontroller. Before understanding microcontroller, we have to understand microcomputer. So microcomputer is basically a device which is used to perform all such operations that are performed by CPU. So microcomputer is a device which basically takes on all the operations on its behalf that are performed by CPU. And microcomputer basically has input device, output device, and main memory. So when we compare microcomputer with microprocessor, the difference that we observe is that microcomputer has input output and memory associated with it. But microprocessor doesn't have all these things. So sometimes the question is basically asked, which of the following components are contained in microprocessor? Input device, output device, main memory, none of these. So the appropriate answer is none of these, because all three components are associated with microcomputer but not with the microprocessor. Because microprocessor is simply a logical device which has a task to perform ALU operation. The next thing is microcontroller. So microcontroller is basically a device which is obtained when we put microcomputer inside a single chip. Microcontroller is a device which is obtained when the entire microcomputer is placed into a single chip. That is an important definition that we have for the microcontroller. There are certain standards for each of the devices that we have discussed so far. Like microcontroller has the standard of 8051. DMA controller that we will discuss in our further lectures has the standard of 8251. Sorry, it is not DMA controller, that is basically USART. That is basically USART. Then interrupt controller. Sorry. Then DMA controller. It is basically the interrupt controller, I think. It is interrupt controller that has 8257, and DMA controller which has 8259 as a standard. So this is all about I think I'm making a mistake here. It should be interchanged as, this is basically the DMA controller and this is the interrupt controller. So this is all about the standards that we have in computer organization architecture for these devices. Microcontroller has a standard of 8051, USART has a standard of 8251, DMA controller has a standard of 8257, and interrupt controller has a standard of 8259. So this is all about in this lecture. We will discuss about more about microprocessor in my next lecture.